Hello and welcome to the Wild Woman Way podcast. I am here with the wonderful Bishop, who is a somatic coach, who is a leadership coach, is a business coach. I don't even know all the things that you are. Like there's, I think, 1,000 different things we
Yes.
could say.
Yes. A lot of things.
And yeah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Charlotte.
It is just a pleasure. So I want to start by saying that this podcast was birthed out of this desire to share the voices of women who have left the rat race of the the patriarchal modern culture program and have decided and declared and created lives for themselves that 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 create different results and are actually about really being in touch with the wild essence of themselves.
Mm.
And that's what we're about here. That's
Yes,
what
I
I
love
want to
it.
bring to the world.
We're doing it here.
Yeah. And you're really living this. And oh, okay, so there's so many things we could talk about. I want to
Yeah.
start by just letting everyone know that we met through the possibility management community,
Mm.
and we've been having a lot of different talks about PM and emotional work and somatic work and nervous system work. And
Yeah.
Bishop works with the somatic side of healing and transformation and
Of life.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
great, of life. So I leave it to you to just yeah, I would love for you to just introduce yourself, share a little bit about your work and yeah, how it came to be for you. And then I want to dive into how does I want to go a little bit into PM and somatic work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also let's just see what happens
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Um, so I feel somatic is this really big buzzword that's happening right now, and people don't even know what it is. Like we're using it, but a lot of people are like, but what do you really mean by that? Like I think even people in the work and even myself when I first came in, I was like, what do I really mean by somatic? And I just want to kind of cut it right now. Like somatic is really just a fancy word for the body. Soma in Greek means body. But the way that they view the body is it's not like a lot of this new way of looking at embodiment is like the body, but the mind is also the body. And so somatic is really when I work somatically, it really means I'm working with the feeling body because the mind is also the body, right? We have, in PM work, possibility management work, we work with the 5 body maps. So there's so many different types of bodies, but somatically is really working with our living wholeness. And the way I got into this work is actually through a cancer diagnosis, and which I was mentioning to you yesterday in 2018. And that really started my kind of more holistic healing journey. And it was throat cancer. And through a plant medicine ceremony, I really started realizing I really kind of came back to my body for the first time in like years, like a long, long time. I was highly, highly disassociated from my body, and I'd always lived and valued, as most of us, the mental body. I loved being in here, intellectualizing, but I was very disconnected from like my feelings, and so I was living in a big state of survival from, a very abusive relationship I'd had with a family member, like growing up most of my life. So all that to say, that really brought me starting to come back to my body. I got really into breath work. Um, and so when I took my breathwork training with Sacred Breath Academy, I was just doing it because I felt so present, like in my practices. I was like, oh my God, like I was so obsessed with meditation, but I was missing the breathwork was a whole new level of like presence for me. But when I started the training, it was really activating and bringing up my trauma body, because what is breath, the style of breath specifically that I do, it's really turning, like it's basically lowering the numbness bar to a big level, and bringing up and really turning up the volume like this on the feeling body. And so, for example, for me, not having really been connected to my feelings and living majority up here my whole life, when you turn on the feeling body like that, it is a lot. Like I felt like I was like crashed with this wave of a whole new world that I'd never experienced before. And I didn't know what to do with it. And I was remembering all these memories and some traumas and just feeling so much. And so somatic, when I started to get into somatic work, for me was really starting to help me actually live with and integrate what my body was remembering on an emotional level, and starting to work with my nervous system, and really starting to understand how it impacts my life, the nervous system, and understanding this incredible, like, basically this system in our body that guides our thoughts, our feelings, how we see the world, what we do in the world. And so that was the beginning of my kind of starting to work somatically and really understanding how the mind body connection actually works.
Wow. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot there.
Yeah.
I tried to.
Okay, so I'm curious about the nervous system and its role in the somatics. Like how because we were talking this morning about the nervous system, and you said something really amazing about how the nervous system is like the base for the way that we see the world, and the way
Yes.
that we are interacting and reacting and engaging with the
Yeah.
world. And I was started following this woman who's a breathwork facilitator, also Kundalini yoga, which is it's a Kundalini yoga is also a manifestation of different breath works, and she was saying that basically, like, in order to be able to be a parent that can really be with kids and not be reacting and going insane, you need to have a healthy nervous system. And it's like, yeah, I got this download or this clarity about, okay, it's like the base. It's like so yeah, I'm curious how you work with it, how it relates to this. Yeah, like is there a different, like, somatic work, nervous system work, it's one and the same.
What I learned is you can't really be doing somatic work if you're not nervous system informed. That's a big part of the work. So to kind of go back, like, I remember this thing when I was going through my trauma and somatics training with Will Reason and Ariana Joy. It's a 3-month amazing training. It's not teaching somatic experiencing, by the way, which is a technique developed by Dr. Peter Levine. That's like a 3-year program. I don't do this. I have techniques that we touch on these things, but it's more somatic informed, right? And there are ways to work somatically without getting trained in the somatic experiencing technique.
Yeah.
But what you were referring to earlier is that I remember learning this one fact that 80% of the nerve fibers send messages from our body to our brain, and only actually 20% from the brain to the body. Meaning that most people think that, like, oh, change your thoughts. And I'm not saying like mindset work or like changing thoughts to change our lives isn't powerful, but it's just, you're just kind of working with it's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
And like, there's so much personal development stuff out there that's working with all this mindset work, when, like, if 80% of our nerve fibers are sending messages to the brain, then why don't we work with the body first?
Yes,
and that's really what somatics is. It's body-led working, whether it's business coaching, whether it's living, whether it's relating, like, okay, what is my body saying to me first right now? Right? And because we can convince ourselves, I'm like the definition of, like, I can convince myself of anything, which is, it's scary, And so what we were talking about this morning is that, like, in every state of your nervous system, you have a story about the world. So without going into like polyvagal theory and getting really sciencey about it, like, when we're in like our most present space, when we're in like regulation, when we have access, and that doesn't always mean super calm and relaxed. It just means like alert and present. And when we're in this space of regulation, when our ventral vagal system is really activated, we have access to, we believe about the world. For example, when I'm present, I believe that things are possible. I have access to my creativity. I'm present with you and listening to you and have access to like certain impulses, right? And I have access to so much more wisdom
And clarity.
and clarity.
Yeah.
Yes. To the clarity of my feelings versus reactivity to old emotions. When I'm in a sympathetic state, which is one of the branches of the autonomic system, it's a more like fight or flight energy, survival response. That's like, okay, I need to go and I need to make this happen. And often there's like this scarcity state in it. So this is kind of what we were talking about this morning. When that's activated, which is a majority of what people are in, especially if you're working in modern culture, there's this like productivity, produce, I need to go, I have things to do, anxiety.
Yeah, yeah.
When that's happening, usually, and I encourage everyone to like really monitor, like, what do I believe about the world when I'm in this space? But usually it's this, there's a problem and I need to fix it. The world is a problem and I need to fix it. I'm a problem and I need to do something. And so naturally, the way, if you parent like that, it's reactivity. If you lead your business like that, what you offer the world, it's, I need to do something. Yeah, you can even feel it in your chest.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
And it's this high functioning anxiety that most of us walk around the world with, thinking that we're being very productive.
Oh my God.
And it really is that. It's like when I talk about this, people are like, take a breath. Jesus.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. It's a lot. And then there's the other branch of the nervous system, the dorsal vagal, which is more of that like shut down and freeze. And I mean, what do you said this earlier as well, something about moving through some of these states. Like, what would you believe about the world in this state?
Yeah, what I believe about the world when I'm frozen is like, there's no hope and I'm stuck and I should just give up.
Yeah.
Like it's like you see nothing, there's no possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except like I need to be alone and isolate myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a helplessness.
Yeah.
And that's typically what people do. And this is this more like depressive states. And so, when we talk about like when working with the nervous system, instead of convincing myself or convincing yourself out of these, this positively reframing, okay, the world is good and it's possible, but your whole system and your whole body is like, I don't fucking believe you. You're lying.
Yes.
Because you're manipulating yourself.
Yes.
And so a body first, when I work with people, it's really about working with their body versus trying to shift the mindset first. The mindset stuff comes after.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so huge. That's so huge. I really thank you for that. Because it's like the body keeps the score. The body has the information. And when you like what you're saying about tricking the mind to change the body, it's really like I have really never actually felt that work. I feel it's like it's a band-aid solution.
Yeah.
And the truth of like what your feelings is actually in the body.
Mm-hmm.
The information is in the body. So if you're missing out on the information by trying to convince yourself into doing something different.
Yeah.
Instead of like, this is where I am in my body.
Yes. And this is the step that I tried to bypass of like, I don't need to meet myself where I am. I can just skip ahead to where I want to be. And it's like, we're missing so much, like you said, information and intelligence of when I cannot meet myself where I'm at, then I'm skipping the whole process of meeting myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you work with people when, like, for example, if I'm in an emotional fear and, how do you work together with emotions, EHPs, and somatic? I'm guessing this is kind of like the secret sauce, or like
I love combining both of these because for me, it's not just working with the nervous system. Like, so, okay, I really see it like kind of two two areas of my work,
Yeah.
which I'm also starting to see more online as well, as like, I mean, majority of what I was seeing when I first started was like regulation work, right? Which is so important, learning to regulate the nervous system, to activate, basically to become our own best resource, right? To develop resources and capacity inside of ourselves. The first program, I didn't ever launch it, but the first program that I wanted to, nervous system program, I wanted to call it a safe place inside of yourself. Because that's basically what you're learning with the foundational somatic and nervous system work, creating safety in your body, whether it's with your breath, with your, with the certain movements. This is what you're really, using, like nature. Like there's so many resources that we can have to remind us to come back to presence, because that's basically what you're doing when we're in a triggered state. You're not here. We're not here, right? We're in the past, or anxiety's in the future. So there's so many resources. But the second part, this is why I love possibility management work and emotional work in general, is I see it as expansion work. So usually when we're diving, it can be very regulating for the body to heal emotions, for sure, long term. But there's more access to the wisdom of emotions and going deeper into the body when you have that foundational nervous system regulation work. I mean, think about it. Like if you have a foundational sense of safety in a relationship, and when I say safety, I mean like a shared amount of trust, of like, okay, we're kind of on the same page. We know how to communicate. You can go deeper.
Yeah.
Right. And it's kind of like that with the body. When you've developed some kind of trust and reciprocal relating with the body, you go even deeper. And so with the emotional healing processes, I found I can go much deeper and hold so much more, because my body's like, you've got yourself.
Yeah.
You know how to regulate. And so I see the emotions work as expansion work, is I'm not just regulating, I'm stretching my nervous system's capacity, which is really the ability to hold more. And this is what I'm starting to get really excited about, of actually like expansion work. And this is when you can start to, and we've been having some of these conversations, train your nervous system to hold the relationship that you want to hold. I mean, think about like the relationships that we've had. That's a whole other probably podcast episode, but like you only have in your life what your nervous system feels safe enough to have. And when I say safe, I mean familiar.
Yes.
Your nervous system is only familiar what it's familiar with. So if you want this incredible relationship, but your nervous system isn't familiar with it, then you can forget about it. Yeah. Right? And so this is when you start to practice the expansion work. Okay, how can I actually train my own nervous system to start to feel more familiar with, like I call it like microdosing your desires, of like, okay, here's a little bit of what we want, like, and not too much to overwhelm it,
And from the place of like experiencing that in your body.
Yes, not a concept.
So it's not the Joe Dispenza, I'm gonna think about like, okay, but his whole thing is actually, it starts with, okay, imagine it, and then what does it feel like in your body to have this thing?
He does bring it into the body. But it's on a somatic level, feeling how does this relationship feel, and going slow and letting your body just slowly start to feel that as a practice.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
I see how important it is that it is a practice, that you just continually kind of tune into this in a little ways, so that you actually expand your nervous system instead of like forcing it to grow.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like there's a natural speed, it feels to me, of like that I can actually do that. And I noticed, like, without really even having so much of this language about nervous system, that in my journey of doing a lot of emotional healing, as I was going on inside of the processes, I was like, wow, really noticing how okay I am inside of it. And just being like, wow, okay, here I am. And each time just like, can I let go a little bit more? Can I go a little bit farther? Like, how to really be with myself as I do this.
Yes. And this is what I think a lot of nervous system work out there is missing, is the expansion work. Because often I'm now seeing people like using regulation as another bypassing technique.
Yeah, yes.
And it's like, that's not the point either.
Yeah.
Like we are capable of so much. And when are you regulating yourself to not feel something? You know,
Yes.
when I first started emotional work,
Yeah.
like one of my mentors was like, okay, every time you go into emotion, you're literally like regulating it. Like it was like I was taking a deep breath, a belly breath, because I know how to regulate myself. And it was like, stop regulating. You're not letting yourself go into feelings.
Into like what's really going on.
Yeah. So I had to develop trust in myself that I actually don't have to regulate now in intentional spaces. I can go there and trust my body that it's got itself.
Yes, that it will, when it's over, or like it will regulate again, kind of thing.
Yeah, like and what you said, I want to touch on about the healthy nervous system. What that really means is a resilient nervous system, which means that a resilient nervous system can go move back and forth between all the states. It's not about being in regulation all the time. It's about, okay, I can move into, like, I can have these stress responses and then more easily come back right into presence again versus being chronically frozen or stuck in a certain state.
Wow, so amazing. Because yeah, I love what you're bringing into this, because I noticed a lot of the like mental health healing work. I once went to well, I once was at a trauma-informed yoga teacher training. And in the teacher training, the whole thing is basically about of really avoiding any potential that the trauma gets triggered. So it was like all about, you know, where you stand as the teacher and about the poses. Like it was so like tiptoe, you know. It was basically like, don't do anything that would potentially like trigger someone that had any of these lists of experiences. And at the time, I was like, yeah, okay. But now what I'm really like, seems a bit obvious to me is that if you just tiptoe around it and you keep trying to regulate it instead of actually opening up the trigger and really actually feeling what you didn't feel in the past, because that's all that the trauma is. It's just something happened and you had a response, right? And then you didn't feel it, so now it's okay, we need to go. It's really okay, it's actually great if you get triggered, because now you can go back and you can feel it in a place where, if you have the tools, and you have the tools to be able to actually feel it when you couldn't before.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel is actually an authentic step to healing, because so much of this like work about, okay, just you try to cover the anxiety by like regulating it and making yourself okay again, but there's like something very important underneath that trying to tell you.
Yes, 100%.
So I love your perspective and like the way you work with it, because it's totally unique.
Yeah, and it's really both.
Yeah.
It's really both. Like I've seen people and experienced working with like deep emotional work with no nervous system knowledge, and I've seen how dysregulating and re-traumatizing it is for the body. And I'm like, oh, like there's something big missing here.
Yeah.
And I've also seen people just working with nervous system regulation and going in this like bypassing numbing thing and kind of missing a really key part of. So I really like, it is both. And knowing as a space holder, when intuitively using my body's knowing, okay, this is needed now. And really, I think the more facilitators have a nervous system approach and somatic knowledge, the more they can tell also, okay, my client or this person, even a friend, is on the edge right now. They don't need more pushing. And then you can also tell when someone has the capacity, is like, okay, let's go there now. Let's try, you know. It's not this work is not about going around the world not to try to trigger people. And that's something I was taught my whole life. I think a lot of us are like, okay, how can I make everything mindfulness okay for everyone? Don't say anything and this. I don't want to trigger them again, re-traumatize them. That's not it either.
Yeah, exactly. It's just really, it's like coming to terms with life as life is.
Yeah.
That it is inevitable that you would get triggered. It's inevitable that, you know, your nervous system has an imprint from the past that would come up again. Like, these are just, it's life. And so how can we actually be with what life is and work with it? And this thing about the nervous system, training it, you know, in the beginning also, and as you're moving through your healing journey, as really like, yeah, the way to be able to integrate it, I feel, and come back. Because I think something I learned in the healing process is like, I was in the beginning, I was activating so much of my old stuff and it was coming up, but then it kind of was like coming up a lot more and more and more. It was almost like, um, after the process was over, I felt like I wasn't really coming back into a regulated place because it was like there was so much.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the awareness of like, it's not normal to be all the time like in a process, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that it's not necessary. Like, I'm still doing the work if I'm not constantly like in a process about it.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, this it somehow is an activation of the nervous system to open some of these emotional wounds from the
Of
past.
course. Yeah.
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 And yeah, like somehow you're really giving me permission, like just being with you the last couple days and being here, giving me permission to be regulated.
Wow.
It's like, why would I, why not? It's almost like I'm noticing this like, it's like it's guilty to just like be okay or something, or it's like it's too it's too good to be true to just be, right? I'm noticing this like, wow, I've really been robbing myself of more time and just like allowance to be when I have this big thing to this mission to do.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a time and like it matters and there's an urgency, and I feel that's really just my nervous system telling me that, which is not really the truth.
I'm really glad you brought this up. I feel so much joy because there is an addiction
Yes.
on a nervous system level that I see a lot in the communities I'm in to intensity. And we call it healing. Going to the next ceremony, to the next training, to the next event. And I say this because I was this. Like, I need the next thing, and I need this addiction to self-work, but not in a way that is really in integrity with the body.
Yeah.
It's coming again from this hyper dysregulated place of, I need to do this and I need to do this, or I'm not going to be healed, or I'm not going to be ready. And it's the same thing wrapped in a different candy wrapper. And so, yeah, I feel a lot of joy to hear you be like, actually, it's also okay to feel regulated and to not be in this intense cycle of healing and learning the next thing and in the next training. And yeah, we talked about this a bit over our both of our paths of just being in the trainings all the time and learning and healing. And yeah,
amazing. I have a story that like there is each person has their own evolutionary speed, that like there's actually like I don't know, that there's a speed that your evolution happens that is unique to you, and the body is really giving you information about that.
Wow, yes.
So if
very much,
like for me, it was like I had this part, was doing a lot of trainings, a lot of things, and then there was this clarity I had of like I don't want to go to more trainings because I feel like to actually authentically integrate it, I need a lot of space and time. My evolution is asking me to go at this speed with it, because my body was just giving me a no, like don't go. Even though my mind was like, oh, I really want to go to this thing.
And you could have gone.
Yeah.
Right? And because there's not a right or
exactly.
wrong. It's just the also going at I've found that going at my body's pace, even if it's a lot slower than what my mind wants it to go, I retain so much more.
Wow.
There's so much more that I have access to when I really listen to the rhythm of my own body. I mean, I could force a lot. I think you're the same. Like, I could force myself to do back-to-back things. I mean, going back into college and in my first job, like all-nighters and do it. Like, I can force a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't know, for me at this point in my life, I'm not interested in forcing anymore. I was a pro forcer.
Yeah.
Like, really.
Yeah.
I know that I can force it. Yeah. So.
Fuck, same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. It's really just landing in me in such it's almost painful.
Yeah.
Of like, ooh, this approach of like, okay, my mind is telling me this, or um it's like my mind is telling me this, but then my body's telling me it's the feelings, or the feelings is telling me oftentimes something different, that the mind is like, but we can't do that.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've been going through the last like months is like making a new relationship with a new agreement with my mind.
What kind of agreement? What's the
So
new agreement?
yeah, so like I've been really passionate about feelings work, and really activating my feelings. And so as I'm getting more and more super clear information from them, the mind is just like, she's up there like having a panic. She's like, we need to organize, and because it's so different than what the feelings are telling me.
Yeah.
So I've had a couple of different processes where I realized like that this is something I'm also integrating in my coaching with people. Is like, okay, well, let's also talk to the mind. Let's see what the mind has to say about all this, and like
Yeah.
give some attention to her,
Yes.
because it's kind of going against what the feelings are now, the information is telling you. So as soon as you activate your feelings, and suddenly you actually have to deal with your mind. This is what I've noticed, is like the mind coming in to uh give you different information. But
Yeah.
no, but you need to do this, and no, but this is
Yeah.
so yeah, I had this like process where I saw like the space of my mind, and it was this room, and it was me sitting in a room, and it was an office, and I was in my little office, and I had these nice books, and it was this beautiful little place, and I was sitting there just like neurotically typing.
Wow.
And I opened the door like to this room, and I was like, oh no, like this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And I'm actually realized what's been going on is that she's been getting no attention,
Yes.
because I've been so in my feelings, and I'm just like, she's not getting any attention, and she's getting ignored. And she's really freaking out now
Yeah.
because she's being ignored. Nobody's helping her. What are we going to do? What's the plan? There's no plan. She's just gone wild, with her feelings and following the feelings, and like, what's the plan? And yeah, without knowing, like subconsciously, yeah, her up there was going in conflict with my body. So I was able to just kind of ignore it for a while, until I had this amazing craniosacral session with this woman who helped me to like hold space for me to like talk to her, and also like down it was really my womb versus my mind. And yeah, I don't know exactly where I'm going with this, but I think I just wanted to share that I had to um basically like be with her.
Yes.
So I basically was doing it was crazy. It kept happening day after day, where I would bring the womb woman, walk her up the stairs of my spine and into my mind, knock on the door and be like, hey, like, it's me.
Yeah.
I brought you some water. I brought you some tea. Like, hey, I'm with you. And then the mind person is like, oh, okay, yeah, actually, that's really what I need. And then just like slowly every day checking in with her, and like giving her tea. And what the mind really wants to be doing up there is to meditate.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And so the process happened, and by like the third or fourth day, I would go up and check on her, and she was just totally asleep on the floor, just like this.
Yes.
She was so tired. She was like, I'm so tired from
Yes.
from being totally neurotic.
Yes.
And now when I go and check in on her, it's really like I have to check in on her because she's a little bit neurotic. The mind
Yeah.
is crazy. And it's really like, I feel the work of the mind, what I'm noticing, is just to meditate. That's my new like practice, is that when you meditate, like, then you really get the mind into a space that it actually can problem solve for you, and really like
It's present.
it's present. It's
Yeah.
being the presence that the mind needs.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Wow.
feel a lot of joy you said this as well, because it's not about abandoning any part of ourself. And this is also a big part of somatic work is I operate a little bit with like somatic parts work, and like kind of what you just said around like you can't just say goodbye to your old parts and fuck off, like, but to really have this check-in space. I think it's so beautiful that you have this this check-in with all of you, because
Mm.
it's not just good morning, Charlotte. Like there's so many different parts to Charlotte.
Yeah.
There's the neurotic part that
Yeah.
thank you, by the way, like
Yeah.
because she kept you like functioning for so long when you really needed her, and she
Yeah.
still gets to have a part, but
Yeah.
often she wanted to play a different role.
Yeah.
And I think that's really common, like the overly stressed survival mode parts of us actually
Oof.
would love another role
Yeah.
if we can give it to them.
Yes. Yes.
Like what
Amazing.
gets to happen
Mm.
when these survival based parts of us that have been driving the car our whole life,
Yeah.
what part do they get to play now when they're not protecting and in total survival mode? And this is kind of the concept of gremlin in PM. It's like when gremlin isn't in total survival mode and unconscious, gremlin gets to play a beautiful role in helping you create in a non-linear way. And it's the same thing.
Yeah. Yes.
Like they want to be all parts of us. They want to help, but it's like when they're unconscious and they're just trying to get by, and we're giving them the role of like, okay, help me get by.
Yeah.
That's the role that they're going to play. They're on our team. And this is my
Yeah, I
favorite
love
part
this.
about somatic work is you start to realize everything that is happening in your own body, all parts of you it's all love.
Yes.
It is like, it is rooting for you all the time.
Yes.
And when I first got cancer, I had so much unconscious anger because I was like, how dare my body do this to me? When in reality, it's on my team. It's communicating to me. I just didn't understand the language of my body at that time. And I had so much grief coming into this work of realizing how much I hated my body and hated my mind and hated myself, because I'm like, why are you doing this to me?
Yeah.
But it's just, it's so, yeah, I feel so strongly to bring this because it's basically realizing that everything in you and happening with you it's with you. It's on your own. You have all these little workers in you that are like, we're rooting for you.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah.
Oh, amazing. It's so in line with what I've been navigating in my life and really accepting all the parts of me.
Yeah.
Like in a yeah, and really allowing first, like be where you are with whatever the fuck the thing is. There's no bad, there's no good. It's just here we are.
Yeah. Or there's no less spiritual or less loving or
Ugh,
whatever bullshit that I was taught.
yeah, yeah. Wow. It's so good.
And this also, I want to say what we were speaking about this morning as well, is this is how, especially a woman,
Mm.
I mean, I think all human beings, but because we work a lot in women's work, for a woman to hold space for herself is so profound. I don't know if you like if any of you have seen that, because for me growing up, I didn't see a lot of women really. I mean, I have a badass mom who loved me and have an amazing secure attachment with and is an independent strong woman, and at the same time I didn't have an example of a woman really everywhere she went, she walked in a room and said, I'm on my own team and this is
yes.
what I want.
Yes.
Like first,
Yeah,
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 and
yeah.
energetically, and not just saying it like voice, but really I can feel
Yeah.
when a woman is really, all of her is on her own team and she comes into a room and she claims the space and
Wow.
she says, this is what I stand for. This is what I want. And I won't people please or sacrifice anything for that. And I think this is what this means to hold space for yourself. And what can happen, right? Like we talked about this morning, what becomes possible in the world when more women are really on their own team, on each other's team, and
Yeah.
holding space for themselves and each other for their magic to come through.
Yes. It's so amazing what you're saying. Thank you. It's
Yeah.
literally just like the nectar of this work of following your own. It's like coming back even to the wild woman way, constantly this thing about this archetype about like being your own, sourcing your own life, and also like being with yourself so much that you are really following what's true. So like if you are really holding space for yourself and something happens and some part of you is angry or sad, but you have this story, oh, I shouldn't do that, or I should be nice to this person, or I should please them, then you're okay, now you're going against yourself. And so now immediately you've stopped holding space for yourself because you're trying to make someone else happy.
Yeah.
And then that's where it all kind of falls apart.
Gosh. And this is a constant process
Yeah,
too, right? Like,
exactly. It's like
I'm still learning that everywhere.
yes. And this morning, a new layer revealed to me of like, oh, I'm not holding space for that part of myself. Wow, okay. Here's a new doorway for me to see. There's a part of me that's this, and I need to integrate it.
Yeah.
And there's many ways you can integrate the parts of yourself. A lot of parts I feel need healing. They need upgrading.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, this part of me needs some support.
Yeah.
This part of me needs a hug.
Yes.
This part of me, needs a coach, right? So just getting clarity about that as really seeing that you holding yourself first is the seed of possibility in the world.
Yeah.
It's like really, it's amazing. I'm gonna say, like, since you came out of the woman's lab, well, I didn't know you before that, but I connected with one other woman since they came out of the woman's lab, and I'm between you two, this specific Woman of Earth lab, I just noticed the level in which you were holding yourselves first, that I was like, this is a bit new this is a new experience.
Will you say how you've noticed it? Because I'm really curious what someone like notices from that.
Yeah. So like I just noticed that I really noticed that you're not adapting or pleasing me at all. So I got here a couple days ago and we've been having some sister time, and I've noticed that I've like asked you things or brought up things that like, for example, I'm like, let's record the podcast tonight, and you were like, no, I'm gonna be bleeding and I have this call and I just have a no. And or there was like something else, and the way that you said it, I was feeling like, wow, if she would have asked me that, I would have said, yeah, whatever. Like I could have just felt myself having had something of like, yeah, it'll work.
Mm-hmm.
And realizing how much you are not, there's never a it'll work.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make it work. You never said any of that. It's really more about, it's either yes or no, that you have that. So it's like, okay, she's really clear on like her space. And that has really reflected to me of how often I'm willing to just be like, whatever. When
this phrase "make it work"
yeah,
really is what women are very good at.
I'm like,
historically good at. Yeah. And so much work.
Yeah, and then I realized because of that, I get exhausted.
Yeah. Because
people ask me a lot of me, like people ask me for favors here and there and this, and will you help me and will you coach me? And I'm like, this is what they need. So they need this support. And then I'm like, yeah, I'll make it work for you because I want to serve you. But because I'm not first serving myself, which I think it's almost this thing of like realizing, oh my God, I also have needs, and it's okay. Because I really felt like I'm so flexible. I'm so like agile, and I'm here to serve. I'm here to like serve the world, and like I have so much capacity.
I can adapt to anything.
Yeah, it really like as a way of, I thought, oh, this is how I can really deliver my service. And it's clear, yeah, I mean, as you know, like it's really something has been shifting in me the last month of like, oh, that's really not working anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, was it ever really working,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's what I noticed, is just your unwillingness to compromise as your initial like stance about something. Mm-hmm. And the other woman I met, what I noticed was, we were in this really like beautiful conversation, and my partner was also there. And as soon as like, yeah, anyways, we were really locked in, and I noticed every once in a while, because like we were trying to figure out like where the keys were for the car or whatever, and he's like, Charlotte, like, where are the keys or whatever. And my first reaction, because like, normally it's just us alone and whatever, so if he asks me something and I'm just whatever, hanging out, I just respond right away. But I felt like I don't want to respond right now because I'm with this woman, And she just did not even blink. Like, it's almost like she couldn't even hear it at all. And I heard it. And so I was like feeling torn of like, okay, he's asking me. And normally, because we live in this way that it's like free and open, you know, there, unless it's like I'm clearly in a call, I'm kind of available, I
Yeah.
realized. And suddenly I was like, I'm not available. And then I was really confronted with like, what do I do? Do I turn to him and be like, 1 minute? Or do I just ignore? Or do I say, the keys are in whatever?
Yeah.
And just feeling her having not,
Her presence with you.
yeah, her presence with me, and also her just completely not being fluttered by it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really powerful for me. And that was something I'm realizing is that I am not, yeah, it's something about honoring like my space in what I need when it's not obvious. Because I realize I walk around like, for example, in our farm a lot, and I'm just like doing my thing, and I'm actually really like doing something, although it looks like I'm just like sitting there, lying there, or it kind of looks like she's a projector just like doing nothing. But I realize like I'm actually doing something, and if someone is like trying to interact with me and I'm actually not really in the, it looks like I'm available, but I'm not, and I don't say that, then I'm adapting.
Yes.
So I realized, yeah, like that really opened my eyes to like, yeah, to that.
Gosh, I have so much to say on this. I have my fear is
It's
telling me
amazing.
about a time. I
Oh
just
yeah.
want to.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have
Okay, cool.
10 minutes.
Yeah, maybe 10 more minutes. I just want to touch on, you just said so much.
Yeah.
In the women's lab, and Chloe was really, and Vera as well, they were both just holding this so much, drilling this in so much, and specifically in Chloe's article about the dignified, arrogant woman.
Yeah, amazing article.
Such a good article, and it made me really realize like it's almost like be learning, especially for a woman, to become more arrogant with her time. And what was so profound for me in the lab is realizing like how much infinite access I've always given. Like everyone has infinite access to me all the time. And that's my value, you know, when why would I deny access to someone that's not loving? And that's just not true. I mean, that's just such an old story of, and especially in a, you know, in patriarchy, it's like this, yeah, I'm constantly available for what everyone needs and what the woman's role, you know, and just to come into this space of just owning everything around you and what you're doing, and is just, it's so different. And like you said, you could sense it. And to really start to not adapt to anything, I think is actually like quite radical. Like it's quite radical. And if you're really like taking the experiment, and this is something I'm experimenting with right now, of really becoming like the least adaptive person, and it's bringing up a lot of fear, a lot of sadness. What if I lose love? Like what if these people don't like me anymore? And these are when the, you know, the emotional healing processes come in a lot. And also the nervous system work. Yeah, but there's a theme around this arrogance that men are typical, not all, but a lot of men have very naturally, of just owning their space, and sometimes overly owning their space, but really like, this is a space I'm here to take up in the world. And I almost am kind of like yeah, I have that part of me too. And what part of me hasn't been owning that? My inner, I don't know, arrogant man. Like I've been repressing it for so long. And so because I repress it, I take revenge on everyone else, that all the men that are doing it. So it's like the more, and the clarity that I'm getting now is the more I integrate that part of me that is this kind of arrogant masculine, that is like, this is and not consciously, like this is the space I'm owning, the less I project it and I have this unconscious anger around the people that do it.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
The more you own it, the less you are angry at the people that are doing that.
Yeah, resent
Yeah.
or have this kind of
Yeah.
revenge.
Yeah, it's sort of like, how dare you?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
this is what I would feel like, how dare people, even women, like women or men,
Yeah.
it didn't matter. It's like, how dare they take up that much space?
Yeah.
Like, how rude, how unconscious of them.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
When you say this, it really hits me that like when I'll just speak I want to speak for myself, even though I have like a when I take up space and I'm completely in myself and not adapting at all and being like arrogant in this, being my own arrogant, like, and my partner is also like this. I notice that the first thing that comes up for me is this fear that, like, where are we going to meet now?
yeah,
Like, is there any meeting ground? This fear. And what I notice is like there's this fear of separation that comes with standing in myself. And that the separation is exactly what is needed to keep a connection. And this is like a big,
wow,
this is a big, like the whole thing about polarity. And, it's that, is that actually being in myself and him being in myself and then us relating from that place of me not adapting is the only time we're authentically in a connection.
yes,
Every other time, I'm just like a fucking, whatever, like a mouse of myself.
yeah,
I'm a piece of paper of myself.
yeah,
So, and what I notice is that creates a lot, actually less time of connecting, because really, like, I'm all day, I have all sorts of things and he's got all sorts of things, so that realizing, like, when we do connect, it is the real thing.
yeah,
But it's not all day and it's not all the time and it's not like, like, but really codependent, close, weird, and it's just, yeah, really been like this painful yet like beautiful, empowering experience of just like noticing, like, just being with myself is okay. And
yeah.
and
It's actually
actually,
really regulating,
yes,
like for the body to have space and also like
mental health,
co-regulation. When you
yes.
two come together, it's not dysregulating anymore because you both had space. You're able to co-regulate, meaning both of you are in a reciprocal give receive, and it's actually very like incredible for your nervous system to feel. It's like, there's a reciprocity here. There's a giving and receiving. And it's versus this like either codependency or, hyper independent space for the system. And I wanted to
Wow,
touch on
so
something as
good.
well, that when we're adapting, it's also a survival response, right? Like the fawn response is that fourth survival state that often people don't talk about, but it's that first level, especially as a woman, where we go to.
Yeah.
And if there's some level of us not feeling safe, it's like, how can I, what can I do?
Yeah.
And when we realize that and face the emotional fears and the sadness and the angers that come with not fawning, which
Yes.
is where the emotional work comes in,
Yes.
we can realize, okay, this is what I'm doing right now. Okay, what is, because every survival response is really just a kind of like coping strategy to not feel something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's so beautiful, like this is again where the two worlds meet, where it's like, wow, okay, I'm in some kind of survival. What am I not feeling right now?
Yes.
And then getting to really, like you said, connect on such a deeper level with our partners, our friends, our family, our teammates.
Yeah.
It's like it goes so deep.
It goes so deep.
Yeah, like even just I mean, I've only known you in person for a couple days, and already us being able to just say what we actually mean and not beat around the bush and not me try to manipulate you into liking me because you're someone new and I want to be friends with you. But it's just like there's no space for authentic connection in that if we're both people pleasing.
Yeah.
Where's the actual love in that? We're just been survival, right?
Yeah. Wow. It's really powerful. Um, okay, couple minutes? Are we
2 minutes.
2 minutes? When you say that, what arrives in me is just how important it is that you yourself go first. Like that basically all I can do and commit to is me being in myself. And by doing that, I'm first of all doing it, and second of all, I get what it feels like. So then when I see you in that, I'm like, "Oh, she's doing that."
Mm-hmm.
Because I know what it feels like, and so I'm able to be excited about you like this. But if
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going for it myself, then I might see you in this way and be like, ugh, or like it's just not uh yeah, be able to yeah, be with you or
Mm-hmm.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just getting this thing about me. Yeah, it's like if you see something that someone is doing I don't know.
I'm not gonna rescue you right now. It's happening right now.
Uh yeah, don't rescue me. It's okay, this is the message. It's the basically the example that you and this other woman showed me about like claiming your space. I feel like um it gave me like, oh, this is what it's like to claim my space. And because I've also started to claim my space, that it worked as a thing.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of my journey was a lot of like other people need to change.
Yes.
But and then it'll be better.
Yeah.
But just realizing like, okay, I have to take first steps to change myself, and then yeah, I don't know.
That's a losing game as well, right? To
Yeah,
make it about the other, like,
yeah,
that's also another a way of just totally losing the space that you're holding for yourself when you look at other people and you're like, what space are you holding for yourself? And it's something I still have to remind myself of, like, okay, what is this space? This is my space. This is my space. It is not something that my space. It's about my space. But it's a constant question every day, multiple times a day, that I'm always asking. It's not something that like just happens. I'm like, no, I'm always holding space for myself. It's like, okay, how am I holding this space right here? It's a constant check-in. What do I want right now? And coming from someone that has been disconnected from that for years, it is a nervous system is a patterning.
Yeah.
And so this is another thing, like this working somatically, it takes time, like years and years to repattern things. So it's slow. And I think this is also a big resistance that a lot of people have, because we're very used to, in our modern culture, this quick fix of this.
Yeah.
I go to one weekend immersion, I go to a training, and I do this for 30 days. And yes. And it's like, no, it is a constant, it's a practice, just like meditation, just like yoga. Like, it is a practice of learning to hold space for yourself. And so I'm experimenting with this for the next years. And maybe in a couple of years I'll be like, nah, I doubt that. But, it's like, it's not a right or wrong. It's like, what do you want to experiment with now? I've had 20 up until 2 years ago, 28 years experience of what it's like to hold space for other people. Now I'm really interested in experimenting what it's like to really be devoted to holding space for myself.
Yeah.
And in turn, I think it's even more effective to hold space for others when I'm holding space for myself.
Like 1,000%. That is the fertile soil of being a space holder for someone else. I really learned this recently the hard way.
Yeah.
When I had someone in my circle like have something happen, and it was scary for me. Instead of being with my fear about that, uh I was before that I was like, I need to hold space for her. And because I didn't first hold space for myself, I wasn't really able to actually be there.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
I was there, but it was not, yeah, it was a dysregulated being there or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I really mean, and I've also been practicing this sense of like breaking down the words that I really mean. Like, when I say hold space for myself, I really mean staying in connection. Like, and
yes.
how on earth am I supposed to connect and feel connected to you when I'm not even knowing what's happening in my own body? I see now why some of my connections and relationships didn't work out in the past, because I was so my center was in them, and I'm like, how can I hold space for this person? How can I was trying to connect to what they were connecting, what's happening, and that was my survival response. Now it's like the level of connection that's possible when we're both in connection with ourselves is beyond beautiful, and a different kind of love, really, and friendships as well.
Oh, to that.
Oh,
yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
This has been very nourishing and beautiful, and let's close with, how can people find you? I'll put all your links, but yeah, is there anything you want to invite anybody to or share about?
Yeah, bishopreid.com is a work in progress, imperfectly. Instagram, I'm on quite a bit, and would love for people to sign up to the newsletter. Like, I'm using more email now to inform, and I do a lot of writing on Substack and on my blog. I love writing my findings on this stuff, and so yeah, that would be the best way to keep in touch and to learn more about this work, and the path. I have a very strong feeling as well we'll be doing more with one another.
It's just brewing up. The brewing was happening.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. So we're just beginning.
Yes. In the wild woman way. Onwards.
Thank you.